Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time, back with the man, myth, the legend, Mr. Greg Dickerson. How you doing, sir?
Doing great, Michael. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. So we're going to do a part A, part B series, part one, part two, whatever you want to call it. We're going to talk about the housing market. We're going to talk about what if you are a seller, and then the next one, what if you are a buyer? What should you be doing today? So Greg set it up. You own a home. You want to sell. We'll actually do sellers two ways, right? I want to sell versus I need to sell. So we'll break this down. So if I'm a seller today, I think the market is peaked. I want to time the market. I want to get out now. I don't know, go rent for a while and buy back cheaper because, of course, we're going to have a 40% housing crash in the next 6 months. What should a seller do today if that's what they think?
Well, it's too late. You missed the curve, and we told you when to sell back earlier, but, really everybody's situation is different. Every market's different and all that. So just in general, the housing market has corrected. Values aren't where they were 2 months ago, even a month ago. But there are some markets that are still pretty competitive. So you really need to understand your market. You need to understand what the values are, what the competition is. Talk to several realtors. They'll tell you, so that you can understand, what you need to do. If you're locked into a very low mortgage, hopefully maybe it's assumable and, you can command a higher price if you let people assume that mortgage because interest rates are they're twice what they were. So you have some options there, in terms of selling, or, if you can't get the price you want, then turn it into a rental. You could probably do that if you've got a low enough mortgage and hang on to it for a while until, things correct. But, the market's correcting fast. So you might just need to understand where the values are. If you have to sell or you need to sell or you want to sell, you just get what you can get and move on. But, it's very different right now all across the country, but we're seeing, major correction ahead.
Yeah. So if I was thinking about somebody who wanted to sell, we'll do need to sell next. If you wanted to sell, yeah, I think there's a couple of things I would ask. Is like, first off, tell me about your mortgage, right? Do you have a 2, 3, like what are we doing here? Because again, let's just say you sell, you time the market, your market goes down 15%. I'm just making this up. Well, when you sell, you're probably going to lose 6 to 8% in transaction costs, right? Because you're the seller, you're paying all those fees. But then you buy back in, and oh, by the way, your rate in most cases it's going to be higher and potentially double. So you could be stepping out of a great situation, get the 15% crash, and still be in worse position later because your payment would be up significantly. So I think a lot of folks don't understand finance very well. It's shocking how much of home sales is emotional. Hey, honey, we missed it. You didn't see the peak is over. We want, I want to be like Sally and sell early and, all of that stuff. So I would do that. And then second, if I wanted to sell, I would probably walk around my neighborhood and just see, for example, I live in a community that for the longest time only had one. At any one time, I could only find one for sale sign. Just this weekend, I saw 6. Now, lots of them seem like wish pricing. None of them seem to be, need to sell yet. But hey, you wait a couple of weeks, maybe. But I would walk your neighborhood because again, if you want to sell, you need to price it right. You need to get foot traffic. I'm hearing from more and more agents that are doing open houses, Greg, and it's shocking how many say 0 people showed up. The market is changing fast.
Yeah, it's builders as well. I mean, that's the big thing they're telling you. And, their traffic is way down. But yeah, you got to understand your market. You need to know what's out there, what's available for sale, what are you competing with? And then if you want to go somewhere, what do you have? What are your options wherever you're going? What do you have to compete with there as a buyer? And really, unfortunately, the window's over. I mean, it was 2 months ago that, you could sell for just all-time record highs. And sure, whatever you were replacing that with, you were paying more, but the mortgage interest and the loan that you could get would offset that cost. Now you got the worst of both worlds, right? You're selling for less than you could have. You have to buy for more than you could have, and the rates are twice what they were. So it's kind of a losing proposition now if you want to sell. So you're probably better off waiting a little while, potentially, depending on what your needs are and why, what's motivating you to sell. Although, the values are going to continue to come down. So in waiting, what you get is, obviously mortgage rates are probably going to continue to go up, but you're going to get more inventory. So you'll have more options on the other side when you buy. So if your value comes down, what you can buy comes down, but there's more options. Yeah. So it's kind of a wash that way. And, kind of like we saw at the high end, so it's just really interesting, but it's all relative, it all depends on the interest rates and what kind of loan you can get.
Yeah, what I would tell someone who wants to sell is I would tell them just to sit down and do the math and figure out, because there is a break even point, right? Because again, the price and interest rates are known knowns, right? So you can put them in and say how much is, because again, folks, you're going to have 6 to 8% in transaction costs, and if you only get 15, but your rates double, the math is not in your favor. So do the math. Now
Yeah, and
let's
there'd be a lot of people are doing interest only. I know ARMs are on the rise, but
yeah.
that can be dangerous in this environment because we don't know where interest rates are going. And the thinking is rates are going to come back down again. Eh, those were levels we've never seen. The
No,
question is, will we ever see them again? I don't know.
I don't think so, but I hope knock on wood, hopefully we don't have another, once in 100-year pandemic. So now let's flip the script to somebody that needs to sell. Job loss, health, whatever, right? There are just two people that need to sell. I think in that environment, if you need to sell, you need to be aggressive. You need to stand out today would be my advice. What do you think?
Yeah, depending on the market. I mean, again, there's still not a lot of competition out there in a lot of markets, but if you're in a market, you need to understand your market, know what the competition looks like, know what you need to be able to do to stand out, like you said, and price it appropriately so you sell quick. The last thing you want to do is overprice it. Then you're on the market, it gets stale. People are wondering, why is it on the market so long? It's obviously overpriced. Then you got to take a big discount, So it really depends on what your motivation is. Number one, you got to know your market. You got to price it right. You got to have it ready and attractive to potential buyers and things like that, and understand what their options are. And then, at the end of the day, be flexible. So if you want a higher price, you're not willing to come off that. If you have to sell, then you could be flexible in terms maybe that you could give somebody, or, things like that. So you just, it really boils down to, again, we keep saying it all the time. You got to know your market, and you have to really understand, what's available out there. And if somebody's going to spend X amount of dollars on a house, what are their choices?
Yeah. I think you said both of the things I was thinking about. If you need to sell, there's really a couple of things I would tell you to do. Assuming you have the equity and you're in a position to do this, I would put in the first line of the description, seller paying 10 grand in closing costs and will buy down your rate. You have to stand out to the buyers that are still in the market. So that's the thing I would definitely do. Price obviously as well, but that's probably the one thing I would make. And then, hey, if you have to sell and you don't have equity, which again, I think creative financing, all of these things are coming. Those are possible, but you got to realize you have to go find those people. Real estate agents often aren't in that space, right? If you call up a real estate agent and say, hey, I got a 500K house, my loan's 490, can you help me? And you can't stroke a check. That's a tough place to be, but you can get out of them, right? If you have a 2.5% mortgage, that is valuable to someone. That is an asset to some folks. So you can get out. Also, if you need to sell, can you make it a rental, right? Is there a way for you to get to the other side? Because I think housing, I think transactions are going to crash and be down for a couple of years. The Fed broke housing. So realize if you need to sell, you have options, whether you have equity or you don't.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really interesting. I mean, it's all about the interest rates. And so far, they're holding and they backed up a little bit. So we'll just have to see where they go.
Very cool. Well, part B, we'll talk about buyers. But before we do, Greg, where can people find you?
Yeah, gregdickerson.com. That's where all my info is. YouTube channel links are on there. Go check it out.
Thank you, buddy.